Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. One who engages in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been completely destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is factually situated in the self. Thus he is not bound by the fruits of his work, O conqueror of wealth. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul there is happiness, neither in this world nor in the next. A faithful person who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who is able to control his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. In this world, there is nothing so pure and sublime as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. As fire burns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burns to ashes all reactions of work, all reactions of material activities. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated on the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will cross over the material miseries. Having obtained such knowledge from the self-realized person, you will never again fall into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all beings are but a part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized person can impart knowledge to you because they have seen the truth. O best of the Bharatas, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? All these different performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become purified by all sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme spiritual atmosphere. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance practice by offering the movements of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the movements of the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions. Others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in spiritual knowledge. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and the senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as an oblation into the fire of mental control. Others, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses into the fire of mental control. Others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses into the fire of the senses. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them. Others offer sacrifices into the fire of Supreme Brahman. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. A person who is satisfied by whatever gain comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, and who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. Abandoning all attachment to success and failure, abandoning all attachment to the fruits of his work, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive actions, although engaged in all sorts of undertakings. A person is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom all the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should properly know what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you will be liberated of all material miseries. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore you should perform your duty, following in their footsteps. There is no work prescribed for me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the reactions of work. According to the modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Man in this world desires success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, man gets results from the work, from fruitive work in this material world. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respect, O son of Pritha. Abandoning all attachment, fear, and anger, and being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and disappearance does not, upon leaving, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, takes his birth again in this world, but attains my supreme abode, O Arjuna. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear, millennium after millennium. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion At that time I descend myself. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Many, many births but you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy." Arjuna said, "The Sun God, Vivaswan, is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him?" That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way, but in course of time the succession was broken, and therefore the science, as it is, appears to be lost. The Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, said, "I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the Sun God, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku."